Hello, welcome back to the channel. Please like and comment and subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get into the video. So the Motley Fool is saying some things that I really think is meant to manipulate the public. Now, the Motley Fool is oftentimes quoted by MSN, and usually MSN is not really interested in quoting your article unless it's highly likely to manipulate the bulk of retail into doing the opposite of what's in their best interest. So towards the top, they acknowledge that the SEC has reduced the fine to only 50 million. But in their next breath, they say don't bank on any further upside. Now, for those of us who are well studied, not me because I don't know where to look. So Zach Rector, Moon Lambo, and up to a certain portion in time, the Bearable Bull, they were really my primary sources for the most recent of news. And so what I had noticed is that for those of us who are very well informed in terms of how XRP works, see, there was an article that I mentioned a while ago. Actually, those two separate articles that came out in 2023, early 2024, and the article said XRP is the new Bitcoin and it's going to $60,000. I don't know if anybody can remember that article because now if you ask AI, where some people are starting to get their news from, AI is completely denying that the article exists or has existed because they were deleted. But tons of people on YouTube, they actually know that these articles did drop. Now, let's just say the gaslighting continues. Do you really think that banks would be clamoring for the speed of the XRP network and the efficiency and the money saving only for it to reach $5? No. $10? No. Even $100, that's tremendous upswing. But for the kind of progress that, they really want, I really think that XRP would have to be, even if most of the other smaller institutions don't eventually join in the fray, it would have to be at least in the four-figure zone. Now, that is something worth writing home about. That's what would earn the executives of those banks their bonuses. Now, so what I want to highlight here, the reason why I mention all of that is because in the last two paragraphs toward the bottom, you see that it reads, the continued growth of the Ripple payments network would, in theory, notice how they mention in theory, because they don't want you to actually believe this will ever happen, because now you have Larry Fink on the scene, and Larry Fink's job is to rip us off. Let's just call it what it is. Of course, I'm speaking out of my own opinion, so I don't get sued. Just my opinion, just what I'm thinking. That's how I feel. So continuing, it says boost demand for XRP and increase its value. However, banks don't have to use XRP. They can still benefit from instant cross-border transfers within the Ripple payments network, even if they use fiat currencies. Therefore, the value of XRP is determined more by the sentiment of speculative investors rather than by organic demand. So it's so in that second to last paragraph toward the bottom of the screen, you see that the Motley Fool is trying to convince people that the only thing pushing up the price of XRP right now is speculative investors. There are a couple of major issues with that sentiment, which all goes to show how the Motley Fool fulfills its name of being a fool. Now, one such thing is that retail has been going through an immense amount of layoffs in America throughout the last, throughout 2023 and 2024, we saw a mass amount of layoffs. And even earlier this year, there's still layoffs going on as the agenda of bringing back manufacturing to America has not been completed yet. So there's still room for a recession. In fact, I say we're already in a depression because the recession really started around March of 2020, and we all know what happened back then. So the fool here wants you to believe that people with no jobs and therefore no money is pushing up the value of XRP rather than by what they call quote unquote organic demand. Because they say, well, pretty much at this time, every article can be right based on a present tense of the word. They can be correct at present. Okay, banks don't have to use XRP, but where do we heavily think it's going? To a system where you're going to be forced in some way, shape, or form to use XRP. We already know that because a lot of this technology is intertwined with one another. There's no way in hell that XRP is not going to reach a tremendously high price, because I would even go so far as to say, hypothetically, that RLUSD, I'm willing to bet that it's only fast because a lot of the technology is similar to the XRP ledger. That's what I heard. I forget where I found it. I found that information. I don't know if that's true or not because I don't look so deep by spending every day on YouTube. So, but the Motley Fool is actually trying to cause thought formation of you thinking that you and I are putting money behind a coin that we don't have, which is logistically impossible because that would entail that we have money and we're not being laid off left and right from every place in the U.S. economy. That would also mean that there isn't any phantom jobs out there. Let's just go ahead and let's just assume that. So then toward the end, it says the resolution of the SEC's case against Ripple is certainly a big positive for its business, but it won't necessarily translate into sustainable upside for XRP. As a result, investors might want to exercise caution before investing in this speculative token. Now, the reason why I also want to highlight that paragraph at the bottom is because we already saw in blatant language, it was explicit, it was not left up to imagination. And a lot of these new systems, we already see that Bank of America had mentioned Ripple and XRP by name for their new system. They mentioned it by name. They mentioned, I think, Bitcoin for storing value or something. Like there was documents that came out. When was it? 2019 or something like that. They were mentioning years ago that XRP and Ripple had a place in these big too big to fail banks. So now they're trying to gaslight you into the Motley Fool, in my opinion, is trying to gaslight you into believing that all that stuff with the too big to fail banks like Bank of America, well, that just doesn't exist at all. There's no way in heck that XRP would ever reach a high price or be used or anything like that. We don't even have to use XRP. In some way, shape, or form, you're going to end up using XRP, whether you like it or not. That's just how it is. So I just really wanted to highlight that because I thought it was very funny that the gaslighting always happens where it's right before something big is going to go down. We see other people in the world of finance. They're saying, I think, what was it? Wasn't it Monica Long who got word from Bank of America that they're ready? So now they have to gaslight you as much as possible because those ETFs are coming. And because those ETFs are coming, they're going to end up manipulating that price higher and selling it back to you. The same exact thing happened. If you read the book, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, the same thing happened with sugar and coffee. The same thing happened with Amazon. They had legal issues right before a big upside. They had, wasn't it smartphones? The people were like, man, smartphones will never work. Now, and it's the same game. It's the same scam. There's nothing new under the sun, people. So I wanted to highlight this for that reason, that those who don't know about XRP already, they're going to read this article and they're going to be misled. And I like this had me having what you would call a quote unquote microaggression where I was microscopically freaking out because I hate it when people get lied to and manipulated. So that's all I really have to say. You let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please remember to hit the like button. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to share the video amongst the XRP community on X. Please also remember to keep in mind that when it comes down to the Motley Fool, there's a reason why they're called a fool.